everybody. Thanks for joining in. I hope you all had a great weekend. The Super Bowl's coming up this Sunday, so we got a whole week to prepare for it, read all the opening lines, all the storylines, and everything that's going to go on. So it's going to be an interesting week. I'm looking forward to the game. Hopefully, it's a good game. I hope it's not a game where at the end of it we go, oh, that was a call. I don't want to see the referees determine. Let's have a good Super Bowl. Let's not have a controversial call or an end or something like that that's going to just have everybody shaking their head. I don't want to see that. Let's just hope for a good game. We'll talk about it during the week. But I wanted to take time to make this video about former Jets tight end Richard Castor, who passed away at the age of 75 in his home in Long Island, New York. Now, I suggested to everybody who's a real football fan, if you're a fan of the sport, go on YouTube or wherever you can find old videos and watch some old videos of these old players from back in the 60s and 70s when they used to play. You can see how different the sport was back then. And I mean it in every aspect. The way the players were, the way they acted, the everything, the penalties, officiate, everything. The sport it's almost a completely different sport nowadays. And I get it, some of the things they've done to change it, make the sport more exciting. It's all focused on offense and scoring now. I get all that. But if you really want to watch a serious contrast between today's players and the game, as opposed to back in Richard Castor's days, it's a good idea to do it. Just once in a while, pull up a video, watch a game. Hell, I've actually pulled up the whole Jets-Colts Super Bowl and watched the game from its entirety in its original broadcast. It's very cool to do. It gives you a different outlook on the way the football is now and the way the players were back then. But I just want to read a couple of stats for Richard. And tell you guys what kind of a player he was, and just so you know, just so you're aware of this. It's always sad to see one of these old timers pass away. It's sad to see anybody obviously pass away, but if you're a Jet fan or even a football fan in general, it's just a sad thing to see and hear. But I'm going to read you a couple of things. Richard Castor was a second-round pick in the NFL. The Jets picked him in 1970. He played at Jackson State. He caught 322 passes for 5,515 yards and 45 touchdowns during his whole NFL career. Now, Richard Castor was a big guy. He was 6'5", 228 pounds when he came out of college. But he came out of college as a wide receiver. He had really good speed. He had 4.5 40-yard dash speed. But later on, the Jets coach at the time, Weeb Ewbank, switched him to tight end because he liked his size. He had a big size for a wide receiver and good speed. So he was transformed and switched into a tight end, which ended up being a great move for him in his career. Let me see. Castor made 3 Pro Bowls as a Jet. His 3 Pro Bowl appearances was as a New York Jet. So that was one of the things that he was always proud of. Like in his career, he was voted to the Pro Bowl 3 times, all 3 times as a New York Jet. And he had, let me see, Castor made his Pro Bowls with the Jets, selecting him in the 1974 season. His 4,434 yards receiving with New York ranks 10th on the franchise's career list. I mean, to this day, to be like in 1974, 73, and you still rank 10th in the team. That's pretty impressive if you think about it. So there's one notable game in here that's, I'm just reading it off here, so I hope you can bear with me. In week 2 of the 1972 season, Castor caught 3 of Namath's 6 touchdown passes and finished with 6 receptions for 204 yards in New York's 44-34 victory over Johnny Unitas and the Baltimore Colts. Castor set career highs with 833 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns during that particular season, the 1972 season. He had a personal best 47 receptions in 1975. He later played with Houston. He played 3 years with Houston before splitting the 1981 season with New Orleans and Washington. He played in 1 game for the Washington team that won the Super Bowl to cap the 1982 season. So I think what a great career when you see these guys that played back then, the things that they accomplished when the league wasn't really a passing league like it is now. I mean, Joe Namath was the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in a season. I mean, nobody had even heard of such a thing. The NFL back then was run, push the ball down your throat. That's the way the NFL was back then. Now it's completely different. I want to also mention one thing too before going on to something else real quick. Richard Castor is survived by his wife Susan, sons Richard J. Castor, Max Castor, and Sean Castor. His daughters Shannon, Mila, and Alana Nicole, and he has 5 grandchildren. I want to mention one thing that's kind of cool. Maybe a lot of you may not know this. Richard Castor's son Max Castor is part of All Elite Wrestling. It's called AEW Wrestling. It's another professional wrestling that kind of battles against World Wrestling WWE. But Max Castor is part of this group called The Acclaimed. And I'll tell you, the kid is funny. He's a rapper. His tag team is excellent to watch. It's good. It's good to, if you like that kind of thing. Everybody thinks wrestling is fake and all this other stuff, but it really, maybe the outcome is already predetermined. But let me tell you what those guys do in the ring. And this is not a plug for wrestling. I'm not a fan of it one way or the other. I just think it's interesting that his son Max is part of that team, that tag team, Acclaim team, and it's just funny. They're funny to watch. They do funny raps. And I'll tell you right now, the maybe the outcomes are predetermined, but the flips and the bumps those guys take and the crazy shit they do in the ring is real. That is not fake. And so give those guys credit for that, and give Max credit for that. He's a great wrestler. He's very fun to watch, and I enjoy it myself. It's a lot of fun to watch when I do get the chance. So that's about Richard Castor. Rest in peace, my friend. He had a great career with the Jets. He's always going to be remembered as a great New York Jet player, a good man, a good father, a good friend to have. Just read up on him if you need to. You'll find out nothing but good things about this man. And I hope he rests in peace. And I want to mention one other thing, too, that every time this happens, it makes me think about how many records would a guy like Richard Castor have if the NFL was like it is now back then. How many more yards would he have? How many more touchdowns would he have? How many more catches would he have if defenders couldn't block you, couldn't defend you? Everything is a pass interference call now, or defensive holding. I mean, how many more yards would Dan Marino have if every time somebody made an ugly face at him, it was roughing the passer? How many yards would Joe Namath have? How many more touchdowns would these guys have if you couldn't? I've watched videos of Joe Namath getting thrown out of in the sidelines, and not even. I mean, they could just fall on a pile on these guys. How many yards would they have? How many more touchdowns would they have? How many more records would they have that could never be broken? How many more yards would Michael Vick have rushing if every time he ran down the field and defender came up to attack him or tackle him, they pulled back because they're afraid to hit him because they'd be roughing him, which is what happens every time a QB runs now. You watch it. You see players pull back. They don't want to touch him. 5, 6, 7, 10 more yards rushing because of that. How many more yards would Vick have? How many more receiving yards would these receivers have? It just always makes me think that when I see it, and to see a guy like Richard Castor, who's still 10th on the Jets receiving yardage, a team record, and the way things that are now, would he be the top receiver? Would he be a top tight end in the NFL? Who knows? It's just, do me a favor, if you ever get the chance, watch some old videos of old games and watch how different the league was, how different it is now. These guys may have records that would be so hard to break, you may not even be able to touch them. But anyway, rest in peace, Richard Castor. Condolences to him, his family, his children, his grandchildren, and everybody. A great New York Jet player, and hopefully the family is okay and survives this. And that's pretty much all I had to say. Just want to pay tribute to Richard Castor. Rest in peace, my friend. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.